Yeah. Welcome, witches and wizards. We've got a fun one today. Warrior Princess, Capt, Echoic, good to see you all. I've got a friend here. I say a friend, we've barely known each other but we feel like brothers already. He's an astrology reader. His name is Rogan. By all means, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. God bless. Yes, my name is Rogan, and I guess you could qualify me as an astrologer. I do read charts. I wouldn't put a title on it as such. I'm interested in all things that our ancestors were, whether that's alchemy, certain aspects of Wicca, a lot of spiritual healing. But yeah, astrology is definitely my entry point into the esoteric, let's say.
Very nice. So the reason I say astrology is because today I'm gonna get my star chart, I don't know what it's called, just my chart. I'm getting my chart read. Find out a few things about me that I'm looking forward to find out. I've got my chart up already. He hasn't properly seen it yet. So we're gonna get the full workings. We'll also probably swap seats. What I should say before we start, I won't be doing tarot readings. So don't try and join the queue. Also, if we are ignoring you, if you do have questions, by all means ask them. Try to save the more generic questions for the very end, but if anything specific comes up, don't be scared to ask, and we'll get to it in due time. But just be patient with us today. But apart from that, I hope you all enjoy. I will stay in the tarot section to start with, so the regulars can find me, but we might jump around into just chatting or something later on as well. But with that, should we swap seats?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Thank you. Sorry, I did have a sip of your water.
Oh, did you? No,
Hello, everybody. It's an absolute pleasure to be here tonight. This is a big field, astrology, really. We'll break down this chart. It's not necessarily going to give people a grounding on how to read charts, but hopefully you'll find this quite interesting. So there are three key things we look at straight away as astrologers. The first one for me, oh wonderful, I've got paper. The first one for me is the rising sign. I always like to know what sign was rising on the horizon, and that's signified by the chart you can see in the corner, by the thick black line running through the center. So on the left we can see Cancer. that means you're Cancer rising, which I'm Cancer rising as well, so that connects us to the moon quite deeply. It means the moon rules the chart essentially. The ascending sign or the rising sign for me relates to the sort of life cycle you're going to experience, the external world. The sun represents the light we give off. So the sun tells us about our personality and how the world may perceive us. Now, if you only have your sun in that given sign, you might disagree with horoscopes and stuff. And for the most part, I do disagree with horoscopes because you are many planets across many zodiacs and you're not just one. Although there's a very rare occasion where somebody would have all the planets in one sign, and that would happen very, very rarely. And in those circumstances, I imagine those people think the horoscopes are very accurate, and then those who only have the sun in that sign will tell you they're very inaccurate. So you want to know your sun sign, your rising sign, and your moon sign. So here, the sun and the moon are both in air signs. We have Aquarius and we have Libra. Yeah. Just to the... Oh, but it's a mirror image, this, isn't it?
So that's how they're seeing it.
Okay. But it's a mirror image to us. Yeah, there's the delay, but that's fine. So... yeah, straight away, I know that the chart is ruled by Cancer, so my advice to you immediately would be to follow the cycle. You will be tired on a new moon. You will have a lot of energy on a full moon. That's just the way it is. Your chart is pulled based on the moon, so I would strongly advise you to pay attention to the moon and plan projects accordingly. So plan for rest during new moons and plan for, things that take up a lot of energy during a new moon. Your sun is in Libra, which we can see at the bottom of the chart here, and you can see that there's quite a few little symbols in that section. So the sun is absolutely the sun is the largest circle with a smaller circle in the middle of it. It looks a bit like a tunnel, and just above it you can see Mercury. Mercury looks like it's got little antennas. Is just the one directly above in Libra, which is at the furthest bottom of the chart. So this is interesting. You can't look at your sun sign without consulting Mercury. It also means that Mercury is being scorched by the sun. What does this mean? Well, it means that that planet becomes very tunnel focused. There's not a lot of peripheral vision around there. So when it comes to, it's important for Oran to bear in mind that his thinking process can often be, or I mean, you could disagree with this obviously, but most often be very direct, and you would have to take a step out to make sure that you're not neglecting certain things when you are tunnel focused.
I've made it a practice of mine to see the bigger picture. I will just
Okay, yeah. And this is what happens when when any planet is scorched by the sun. But Mercury is the most common one because it dances around the sun. This is low-key dancing around Odin. So I'm a believer that the 7 chakras and the 7 wandering stars and the 7 colors and the 7 hermetic principles, 7 musical notes, that they're all energy being expressed within a spectrum of 7, and are all equal to each other. So for me, the root chakra is ruled by Saturn. This is Satan in hell. Sorry if anybody's very Christian orientated. I do follow the Bible, but I'm sure I read it very differently. So I would ask for people to be open-minded in that respect. I mean no offense whatsoever. So Saturn is the root chakra. This is the father. This is tough love, right? In this case, we have Saturn in Pisces. So Pisces comes at the end of the zodiac. Do you mind me sharing this one? Yeah. So this one shows the zodiac as a cycle, as a sine wave, as such. And up here we've got summer or a full moon, and down at the bottom we have winter and a new moon. This is work and rest, essentially. It's in breath, out breath. It's the seasons. It goes with the body. So like Aries is the ram. This represents the cerebrum. Taurus becomes the cerebellum, all the way around till you get Pisces, which is the feet or the fish. So this 12, the 7 and the 12 come from the 3 and 4. This is a 3 is consciousness, mind, body, soul, the Son, the Father, the Holy Spirit. When you get 2 3s together, it creates 6 or sex, and that's how we produce upon the earth. And then the 4 represents the reality, the physical world, the materialism, and it's consciousness and material that comes together. So if we add them together, we get 7, and these are the 7 wandering stars, which is the Sun through to Saturn. And if we times them, we get 12, which are the phases of life and death, which in the heavens is depicted as the zodiac cycle. So each planet favors a certain zodiac. They're all on their own cycles, and every cycle is different. I was sort of mentioning before, a lot of people sort of think that there should be 13 months in a year, and I am one of those people, but then get confused with NASA's statement that there should be 13 zodiac. Now, I strongly disagree with the 13 zodiac. I believe there are 12 zodiac, and when you fit 13 months into a year, what you're doing is putting the moon cycle within the sun cycle. The moon cycle is actually, well, I mentioned before 19 years. There's two. There's an 11-year cycle and a 19-year cycle, and that's how it's the 19 years where if you have a full moon in Aries, it'll take 19 years for you to have a full moon in Aries again. That's the moon cycle, but it does fit into the sun cycle 13 times. So we'll start with the root chakra, Saturn, and in this instance, you see it's right at the top in Pisces, and it's directly in between the 10th and the 9th house. So this means that this energy is split between the 9th house of exploration and the 10th house of I aspire in the outer world. So it tells us that it tells us a lot about fear, because this is where fear is, and it tells us where we need discipline and tough love, where we need to rise from. Is it not recorded?
It is.
Okay, yeah. Sorry about this, guys. So, Saturn.
You are really good in front of the camera, though.
I mean, I have to admit, it's not the first time. I did run a little YouTube channel of film reviews years ago and stuff. Please don't go looking for them. I look very different now. They are still there, though. Yeah, so this is the root. We need the root, okay? For me, as I said, it's Saturn in hell. You don't want to live there, but you need that tough love to grow. The Saturn is all about not attaching yourself to things, having the courage to rise above and to ascend. You know, it's an essential part. We need to be rooted, we need to be grounded, but in the ground is not where we stay. We do that once we've passed on. So the fear is what will hold you down there, and it's, you know, self-discipline and you know, sort of being tougher that will let you rise from it. In this instance, where it's in the 9th house of exploration and the 10th house of aspiration, it means that for Oren here, sorry, I hit the microphone then, that freely traveling is an important part of growth, though there's potentially some fear there.
See, that's what I wasn't. When you were saying that, it sounds like the best way for me to get over my fears is to travel.
Pretty much, yeah, yeah.
And I think I did a lot of that.
Okay,
I wouldn't say it's a fear of mine to travel now. I just, unless I'm using not having the time as an excuse to get over that fear, I'm not conscious of it.
okay.
But there are holidays that I wanted to go. The big holiday was before COVID. I wanted to become a monk. I wanted to
Oh wow.
go Thailand. I wanted to spend 40 days in a monastery and do it properly. And even though I was being ridiculed by my family and everyone, going basically an idiot, it was like it was. I'm not scared to do that. And yet for some reason it was something that just never got to happen.
Right.
I don't want to say it's because of fear. COVID was a huge part of that. No, my wife was on my side. But yeah, I'm not sure if I'm, because the way you phrased it was almost like I'm scared of traveling, but I think it's more. I understand how much I can learn from it.
Okay. Yeah, this is well, this is where we approach Pisces now, the two fishes. Nothing's ever directly clear with Pisces, or at least it's not whilst you attach yourself to those two fish. Only when you step back and become the observer do you realize that these two fish are actually creating a vortex. They reveal, if I go back to my chart that I wrote, we see that Pisces comes at the end. It's where we can see the full picture. But you can only see the full picture if you have, if you are not attaching yourself to the entire cycle that's followed. If you continue to attach yourself to the stresses and you try to meddle with the fishes, you ruin the waters. You can no longer see the clear picture. But those who are Pisces in here, when you're able to observe and not attach to the stresses around you, only then can you see clearly, and you will have a gift with being able to see very clearly.
Now you say it like that, it's not that I'm scared of traveling, it's what I miss out here while I'm traveling.
It's the other fish. Yeah. So now it shows that to relieve your fear, traveling is good for you. If you are in a state of fear, locking yourself inside is not a healthy state for you. For some people it is, they need the time to recharge. For you, however, when you are in that root chakra, it is important to change your scenery and find something new, or to, that ninth house of exploration can also be done through books. You can explore with the mind as much as you can with the body. Now, Saturn is the most material of the planets, of the gods, of the wandering stars, whatever you want to call them. I call them gods personally because a god is a heavenly body, and these are bodies that move across the heavens. It's the most direct definition of God, and then I recognize there's a creator. A white light casts 7 colors, for example. They are the within the spectrum of the creator. At least that's my opinion, and everybody is entitled to one. So,
how's the music? I did turn it down. It's still too loud. I'm sure they'll reply.
Yeah, is there a bit of a delay?
There's a 5-second delay.
Softer would be better. We've got.
How's that? I turned it right down. And did you see Luke's comment? Luke's first one?
No. Luke Skywalker, you guys are making me want to rewatch Lord of the Rings. You, my friends, bow for no man. Okay. So.
You don't know what got that reference from.
So with aspiration, this shows that social groups can make you slightly fearful. However, having the father there shows that you're actually a really strong leader as well, and that's the sort of balance through life you have to overcome. Is that once you can overcome the fear of contributing within a group, that people will look at you as somebody who could lead that group, but at the same time, go into a new group might be a big feat, or at least that's somewhat what I'm reading here. How would you respond to that?
So what would you say? That I would make a good leader, but
So
I'd struggle to get into that position.
not that you struggle to get in the position, you struggle to walk through the door. That that. So we're talking about the specifically fear. Socially, you might have already overcome this. You've done a lot of work.
I would say I'm an introvert though, so I would never want to be. I can be the center of attention if I know it's for a limited time.
Okay.
So I can do a 3-hour stint on Twitch and then go. I'm back in my And at our wedding, I did a 5-minute speech in front of 300 people. I could do that, knowing that as soon as I finished the speech, I was then able to relax and basically rest.
But
Right.
also, you don't realise how charismatic you are.
I wouldn't say I'm charismatic.
Yeah, but that's what I said. You don't realise it.
I would disagree with that. I think you're charismatic. Yeah. So, you are good at speaking, as I'm sure your audience is aware, and that gift will put you in a position where people will want you to lead. Now, it being Pisces shows that you never want to go too extreme either way. So you yourself being smart and being the opposite of, well, not quite the opposite, but if you look literally across the chart, you see Libra at the bottom.
I think lead is the wrong word. I think the right word is guide.
Okay. I mean, like, people look for a leader. The wisest of leaders guide.
Because it's that whole, I understand while doing a tarot reading, I may know the answer to someone's problem, but if they're not willing to change, my help will never change them. So by leading, it does nothing.
Yeah.
Whereas if I'm guiding, if I'm just pointing you in the right direction, it's giving you the opportunity.
Yeah.
And I'll happily take up that position. I don't know if that makes me a teacher, but I guess it's still not.
Well, either way, Saturn is authority. So people in a group scenario, now yours is right in between. So it's in between the exploration and the aspiration. People will look at you as though you're capable of leading them. What you do with that is up to you. Now, because you've got so much energy in Libra, which is at the bottom of the chart here, you have a very balanced outlook on life. So Venus rules Libra. Venus is known as the sign for female, and if you look in Libra, the little box where it's got the number 4 in the top left hand corner, you'll see the furthest one along in that box is Venus. So Libra is very powerful in your chart. You've got the ruler of Libra where she wants to be. So it gives you this very, very balanced outlook on life. You don't tip the scales too much, which very much softens the Pisces, where it wants to attach to one thing or another. You know, you're able to keep still waters, which then means that as an authority and as a leader, you're able to see a clearer picture, which is absolutely a blessing. Had you not have had so much in Libra, had it been in one of the more chaotic signs, then more fear would be produced with you in social situations. But I still would imagine that at least younger in life, as a teenager and stuff, you would have probably had fear with social situations.
I hated it. I wasn't able. I've told chat this before. I couldn't speak to women until I was 16.
Right.
Like I was very much I would rather not be in front of people, full stop. And if I had to be in front of people, I would only listen.
Right. Yeah.
And it genuinely took me years to just open my mouth. I was always known as the person that had one word answers.
Right.
And that was just me growing up.
So Saturn's the root chakra, and these are the lessons that Oren has to come to rise above it. You know, he has to develop himself in social situations, but also it's important that you do experience travel in this life, which is beautiful because it aligns with your beloved over there. In order for you to grow and to get that self-discipline that you need through life, the tough love, you have to travel. And it does also mean that you might experience some rough experiences whilst traveling. They're there to shape you and to help you to grow. They feel tough at the time, Saturn always does, but the outcomes are always growth. And what are we here for if it's not growth? So rising up the chakras, we then have the moon in the sacrum or sacral chakra. And this is, you know, if you're female, this is where your womb would be. The mother is the moon. The word mother comes from moon. All MO words do. Mood, emotion, even mushroom has moon in it. So we've got the sacral chakra. Now, I forgot to mention, I follow the Hermetic principles, of which there are 7. For the root chakra, for Saturn, the Hermetic principle is cause and effect. It's the most material of the principles. This stream doesn't go live if I don't click the live button, and that cause creates an effect. The pen doesn't fall if I don't drop it. That it's material. With the moon, the Hermetic principle is rhythm. Everything follows the rhythm. Everything rises and falls like the tide, like the ocean, like the moon, like the sun. There's always winter and summer. There's always in breath, out breath. There's always up and down. Everything follows that, from the trees to the human. And the moon shows us her rhythm. We can't ignore it. She waxes and wanes in the heavens above, and in doing so pulls the waters, of which we are 70+%. Your moon is in Aquarius, which is the water bearer. Aquarius is aqua and Aries, which is water and air together, in Latin, I believe. And it's not, you may confuse it to be a water sign. If you have a look at it on the chart, it looks like 2 waves. The orange in colour, and here the orange represents air. Going back before, where we had 3 and the 4, so the 3 represents the phases, and the 4 is for the 4 elements in this case: water, air, fire, and earth. In this case, we have a mutable sign. This means that it ends the season. My apologies. We have a fixed sign. That means it is the season. Out of the 3 that represent that season, Aquarius is the middle one. It's the fixed sign, the bringer of water, and winter is most definitely wet. That water is an allegory. It can essentially be what you want it to be. In ancient Hebrew, they called water mem. That's where we get memory from. Water holds memory. I'm sure many of you are aware of this. And it's why every snowflake is unique. You'll never find 2 drops of water that vibrate the same. Water it's a god in its own right, really. At least natural water is. Your moon is in Aquarius. So this is the purpose of bringing the water, whether this is knowledge, or it's actually providing, putting something on the table. In your case, because it's the moon that's in this sign, I would be more inclined to say it is in the realm of knowledge, as you mentioned before, being the teacher. The moon represents our feelings, our inner self. The sun is how we project, and the moon is how we reflect. It's the opposite. So, again, in the house of exploration, so if you want to provide the water, you've got to go and find it. You've got to go and pursue it, you know, and in that pursuit, will you return with your bucket full of water in its allegorical sense? And that's again with it being in the 9th house. Just to explain the houses quickly, so the zodiac wheel is always turning. Right now you have Cancer on the far left. In 2 hours time, Leo will be in that position. In 2 hours time, Venus will be in that, Virgo will be in that position. And it constantly turns, 2 hours each sign, 24 hours in a day.
I did actually get a question earlier on, like how important is the time of birth?
Yeah.
And so I guess if you're not,
This relates to that for
if
sure.
you don't know it within 2 hours, maybe miles off.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't know your rising sign properly, which means you don't know which of the planets rule the chart, which has the biggest impact in that person. And the houses aren't aligned. So the houses are the physical points in the sky. Imagine the sky, either we're turning or the sky's turning, but one of them are. The houses are the physical points of the sky that it's turning through. And the zodiac is the system of stars that's turning through it. We've also got this line that runs through it. Yours is, I don't know, about a 60-degree angle or something. It's going from Pisces through to Virgo. Yeah, and that's, so this is what we could call the tree Yggdrasil in Nordic myth. It's the what we want to, we need to water the roots in order so that we can branch out. You've got Saturn at the top. So in order to be the authority, in order to access what that Saturn holds for you, you first have to water the roots. Now if you look just at the bottom of the line, just slightly to the right, you'll see a sign that looks like a key. This is Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healer, a titan in Greek myth called Chiron. Usually the planets follow the Roman god names, but Chiron stayed as Chiron. Now, Chiron tells us about healing. He was wounded by Hercules' arrow, a poisoned arrow. He was shot by accident and spent the rest of his existence in agony, constantly being able to heal himself, but always being poisoned. And eventually he takes Prometheus's place, as Prometheus ultimately sacrifices himself for to give fire to man, to give God's fire to man. And Prometheus takes his place, but it represents healing, and healing is also teaching. They're both the same. It's just a different way of getting there. It's in the 4th house of I nurture, that Chiron. So that actually shows me that it's not necessarily your healing that has to take place, but you have to be involved in healing. So healing, and it's with Libra, so it's healing in a helping people to find balance. And only when you're able to help people to find balance within their life will you be able to have the discipline to put things in order in your own life. Have you experienced that?
I wouldn't say I'm that disciplined. Therefore, it explains why when I say struggled to help others, like I feel like if I was more disciplined, it wouldn't help me as such, but it would help. It depends what the thing is.
He's more disciplined.
Because like I was telling you, I did that fast the last 2 weeks, and I just decided I want to do 2 weeks of just eating 3 hours a day, and I just did it. And when I really put my mind to something, I can be disciplined, but to get there, I spent almost a year of eating shit.
Right.
So I wouldn't call that discipline.
I would definitely call that Pisces, where Saturn is. You know, you have to go to the negative fish in order to get in order to get to the positive fish. I mean, when it comes when you feel like your life is out of order, the best thing for you to do is to find balance for somebody else, and you'll find that as you put that out, it will return, and that's sort of what's been told to you.
I've always said that with my readings. It's I'm giving multiple people readings.
Yeah.
And there is a lesson to be learned. If there is a lesson someone else can learn, then I can also learn that lesson.
And it's doing that helps you to avoid fear. And ultimately, because there are 7 sins, and the sin of Saturn is wrath of the devil. You know, if you're not addressing your root chakra, then you will be quick to anger.
I'm not angry. I don't get angry, so I can I might have quenched that.
Well, water is water dampens that in a way. It's very feminine energy. So it being in Pisces, but you know, anger manifests in different ways. Yours may manifest not externally, but maybe internally. You might get angry with yourself instead of the environment around you. There are many ways, but essentially, if you're not helping to find balance, then aligning your root chakra is going to be pretty difficult for you. To ground, I would strongly advise walking in water, streams, as much living as you can.
I've always wanted a koi pond.
Okay.
And it's to the point that, like, I was watching a video this morning of this person that basically built a recreational pond in his back garden, and I was just there going, if I had that, I wouldn't home.
Yeah.
I would just spend my days in my pond.
That will be very grounding for you.
Like, yeah. And I've always searched for water to be like.
Yeah, because it's running water. You can't be still water. But if you ever find yourself overwhelmed, super stressed, like you're overcharged, dipping your feet into a natural stream or river, anything like that, it'll just fall out of you.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So the sacral chakra, the moon, the mother, going back to that, it's very close to the 8th house. The 8th house is circulation. You can almost see it in the letter. It's the infinity sign in the number. So if you've got a lot of energies, planets, however you want to call them, in the 8th house, then that will show that you're very charitable in those areas. It's important that you move things around. So the moon has just left the 8th house, which means there's still a bit of a taste of it there. Astrology is never black and white. It's you know, grey in all the colours of the spectrum as well. So there's a little bit of that 8th house remaining. So your feelings whilst you traveling is really important for you to get into tune with the moon, into tune with your own self, into the mother, the gut instinct. You also want to make sure that you are charitable, and I'm sure you are. I get that vibe from you. And being charitable doesn't mean donating to Oxfam. It means, you know, giving when it's needed. You can be charitable with information, not just with money. In fact, just giving money is actually, I think, a somewhat toxic way of giving charity. You can do someone more harm than good with just money. But charity is generally looking after someone in the best way for them. So your feelings, you feel much better with giving than receiving. That I assume. Aquarius adds to that tenfold, because Aquarius is all about giving without the need of receiving. A true Aquarian doesn't need to receive. They'll still put the water on the table.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm that generous.
No, well, your moon has left the 8th house, but you'll feel really good giving.
Yeah.
You know, whether you do it frequently or not. But
my time is probably the thing that I'm most generous about.
Okay. Which is that not the
When I have
most
it.
valuable thing we have?
Yeah.
Even if it's 10 minutes, those 10 minutes is yours, like
Yeah.
it's 100%. And you know it's that like also
Yeah.
No, she's got a point in terms of
Time is a
I
beautiful
am-
thing to get.
if I am there, I'm 100%.
And that's the tunnel vision.
Like,
He's
yeah.
playing his game.
Oh yeah.
It
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
you know,
There's nothing
tunnel
going on
vision.
around.
I only do one thing at a time. The queue is closed. I did shut the queue. ZZ, welcome in. Also, Agent, thank you for the sub. But the queue will be closed today. There won't be any tarot readings. But by all means, stick around to watch my chart being read.
It's lovely to have you join us. So,
What's the nine?
Saturn,
Ninth house.
ninth house exploration.
So
So
is that
it's-
another one that's telling me to travel?
Yeah, it's
be a
it's
mother.
important. When you go when you go travel, you will be able to provide the water. Which I'm looking at it here. It's the moon, so it's not material
Is
water.
is that quite connected to spirituality?
The moon, very much so.
I can't help thinking it's that whole. I've always pursued a greater art of divination, whether it's the tarots, whether it's astrology, the runes, all of those. And I can't help think that I'm doing something wrong to not be like I appreciate how well I am at it, but to improve, I am doing something wrong to get where I want to be.
Okay, yeah.
And I wonder if travel is just that key that I'm missing.
I would recommend you to look at, in the summer, to look at sort of spiritual festivals and see about having stalls there and stuff. I think that would work really well for you. I think because it's in Aquarius, it's about providing the water. So if you combine travel and providing things together, it would work really well. If you took your shop on the road, then you would get a lot from it. And keep changing the scenery. So yeah. So the next that we go to is Mars. Mars is the solar plexus. This is the chakra I like to prove chakras to people. Every single person has felt butterflies in the stomach, and none of us have eaten butterflies. In fact, even if we had, there's no space there for them to flap, But I know absolutely every single person in this chat has felt that feeling of butterflies in the stomach. So what is that? It's not a physical feeling as such. It's not acid reflux. It's some form of vibration that's going on there, and that's your fight or flight. You feel it when you're on a roller coaster because, as far as your chakras are aware, whilst you're sat on that roller coaster, you're in a serious situation, and it's telling you to get the hell out of there. Whilst when we ignore it and we go with the thrill of it, we get adrenaline, and it's incredibly thrilling. But it is a warning sign of your body to say, whatever's going on here, the chance of you surviving it is fairly slim. Not knowing that you're safely strapped onto tracks. So your Mars then is a symbol for male, and it's in the blue sign that sort of looks like an upside down M with a tail on the end. That's Scorpio. So that's really interesting because Mars rules Scorpio. Who else rules Scorpio? Pluto, and he's also there as well. So your Scorpio is incredibly powerful. Scorpio is Samhain. The Samhain festival is the midpoint of Scorpio. It is the autumn time, and you've got it's the esoteric. Pluto rules it. So you will be driven to the esoteric. It's not like you don't have a choice in that. You'll find yourself doing this type of work regardless. All paths will lead to it in one way or another. They have to. Mars is there. Mars represents, it's everything male, martial arts. And when I say male, it almost fits within that toxic masculinity. It's that I want to win. I want to knock down walls, even to the point of I want to penetrate. It's very, very male and very alpha male. And then we have its opposite, which is Venus, the divine, feminine, everything that is feminine. I don't want to get into any gender stereotyping arguments. It just is what it is. These are archetypes. You know, male and female are archetypes. It's in the 5th house. You've got quite a lot in that 5th house, actually. Pluto, Jupiter, Mars, and then just slightly in there is the North Node. That 5th house is I serve creatively and generally ruled by Leo. So it shows that you are incredibly creative, especially with the esoteric. So I imagine you will be creative with your tarot. For me, I mean, this is a little bit of a cheat because we've already discussed this, but you do your own spreads, don't you? You don't follow the rules as such.
Yeah.
And this is that being able to serve but being creative with it at the same time. And you've got Jupiter there, and Jupiter rules Sagittarius. So like you've got an incredible chart, to be honest with you. So like this is serving creatively within the esoteric is how you're supposed to earn money. So it's actually quite phenomenal that you found yourself on this path early in life, relatively early in adult life. And you know, I think we fast forward 20 years, you will be something within this area, because you can't not be, as long as you stay on the path. Just to give people a hint, when you look at a chart, where we had that big black line going down the center, where Saturn's at the top, if the planets are to the right of that line, it shows that that person is very selfless, very much about the external world, about helping other people. And if they're to the left of that line, not that this is straight up a bad thing, but they're more self-centered. Their life cycle is more about developing oneself than it is about giving. So we can see here that Oran gives way too much away. You know, he'll exhaust himself with what he'll be willing to give away.
Yeah, but again, it's one of those things that, because I've always been like that, I've learned for it not to affect me.
Okay, yeah. You've done a lot of development early in life.
So take my shop for instance. I stream Monday and Tuesday. That means I'm not in the shop. I do have time to rest. I've done that purposely to make sure I can give back to myself. And even though I may not be developing myself as much as I'm helping other people, it's still time to recover. So, I mean, you make me sound better than I am.
No, you don't see yourself.
Does anybody agree with that?
I think don't put yourself down a bit in that area, because like we said before, the time you give is so precious. It's not how much you give. Someone can give £1 million, but they're a billionaire, and then someone gives 20p, but they've only got £10 in their pocket.
Yeah.
Like, that's you. The time you do give is so saturated with, like, it's so precious, and that's why you don't think of it, because you're looking at it on a time scale of a day. Like, I only give you 10 minutes, but actually that 10 minutes is like hours. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Oh, I'm not gonna.
Yeah. I think it's being very humble and modest. Yeah, so your Mars is pulling you to the esoteric. Wherever Mars touches, it's not a choice, especially when it's in a sign that he favors. Mars rules Aries. Scorpio. No, see, if Mars is in Aries, it's incredibly masculine. Now, what you've got is also Venus in Libra, what she rules. So we go back to the balance, right? So fire is a very male sign, and its opposite is water, very feminine sign. Air is a male sign, and it goes to its opposite, which is earth, which is a very feminine sign. So water is a feminine sign. It's quite paradoxical that Mars would be in there. Now, what you tend to find with if someone's got a lot of Scorpio energy, for a start, they generally are like models. A lot of models are Scorpios. They're generally really hard to get in an argument with because they're sharp and they'll cut you down, and they will offend. So it shows that, like, if you're upset, you'll become very direct, very sharp and direct. But it's not like you have this burning desire to win, although there is a little bit of that in there, and that may come out in your gaming.
Yeah, I was about to say that's the only place it comes out.
You're thinking toxic. You're just that straight line.
Yeah, and you've because you've got Venus, Aphrodite in Libra, where she wants to be. It allows you to have a heightened sense of femininity as well. So there is somewhat masculine, but they're also very feminine as well, which is a lovely balance to have. So yeah, that's Mars, and Mars's sort of job here is to, because Pluto's right next to it and it's in Pluto's sign and it's in Mars's sign, it's quite clear. It's in the house of I serve creatively. Very clear. You're put here to creatively explore the esoteric, and then we can look at your chart. Sorry, the line through the middle, what I call Yggdrasil.
Did you say create?
You're here to be creative with it. Maybe I might have misspoke that.
Well, I almost prefer that way of saying it.
Okay,
that
to
I
create
get to create my own version of it, because I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
What I see.
Well, a lot of the esoteric, you project yourself onto it in a way.
Yeah.
So you've got to feel good about it. And like, if all this was in the 6th house, then I would be advising you to follow the books. But there's nothing in the 6th house. You're all in the 5th house. You have to find your own approach to it. You've got to be creative. Trust your gut. It won't steer you wrong. Your gut, your moon, is here to provide the water. That's what it wants to do. So it's going to try and absorb as much as it can, and through that water, be creative on how you distribute it, essentially. Well, because of Mars, there's no negotiation with Mars, so you're not going to be able to do it any other way, quite honestly. If somebody's like, you can only follow this book, it's just not going to work for you. You're not going to vibe with that. If someone's like, here's a book, but do as you will, now we're talking Oren's talk.
Yeah. Well, I was telling you I was reading that book, and I've read multiple chapters. There were some chapters that I read the title of, and I went, I don't need that. And I think it was like a protection bit. And there was other bits that I really resonated with, and I've done the meditations on stream, and I noticed myself changing the formula halfway through the meditation.
Okay.
But still all the same purpose.
I'd encourage you to carry on doing that.
Yeah.
And be free with it as much as you can. So we get to the Mars, that's the solar plexus. Now we go to Venus, who is the heart chakra, or as I like to say, because she's depicted as green, you take the H from the start of heart, put it at the end, it becomes the earth chakra. This works on multiple levels because in Nordic myth, we are on Midgard, the middle of the gardens. And we've got the earth chakra, which is the plane of inertia, or the plane of inertia, as it used to be called. So we've got the heart chakra, and this rules our desires. It's the feminine. It's about feeling. So Mars was all about doing, and Venus is all about feeling about it, the desires. Now with all of these, you can quite literally toxify them by attaching them to the outer world, to materialism. So your desires start to become like envy. You start to be envious of what people have that you desire. Whereas if you flip it and your desires become internal, and you become in tune with what your desires are, then that's a blessing. It's beautiful. You no longer desire riches, or at least not physical riches, but spiritual riches. So with all of these, like with Mars is going to keep you alive, it's going to keep you well, it's going to keep you strong, But if you project Mars, then the world is a harsh place and you have to fight to survive. And that's not true, or at least not in my experience anyway, on my chart. Can't say for other people. So you've got Venus in Libra, which is beautiful. Venus wants to be in Libra. She rules two signs, Libra and Taurus. Taurus is a bit of a funny one because it's the bull, which is obviously a male animal. But it's also in an earth sign, which is feminine. And just like Mars has a feminine sign being Scorpio, then Venus has a more masculine sign being Taurus, the male bull. Libra is the balance. It's where we get library from, where the books are balanced. The Librans make great judges. They're generally fair. You've got quite a lot in Libra.
What? So what's that one?
That is Mercury.
Oh.
So we was referring to the one who sits just above the sun there. The sun being the larger circle with a smaller circle in it. And then just above it is Hermes. Is Mercury, who in Greek myth is Hermes, and if you see a lot of pictures of Hermes, he's depicted with wings either on his feet or just above his ear. And if you look at Loki is often depicted with horns. To me, I see Mercury having two antennae. Mercury is neither good nor bad. He's neither male nor female. If everything was balanced, then there'd be 6. There wouldn't be 7. Mercury is that one that throws it out. As a metal, it never holds its shape. It's about communication and thinking, which is neither male nor female. It's neither good nor bad. It depends on you and how you use it. So just going back to Mars quickly. Its hermetic principle of Mars is gender. Everything in nature has gender. Gender is essential for birth, for production. There is not a single thing in nature that doesn't represent gender in one of the ways. I just see a note there, the messenger of the gods, absolutely. And for me, these gods, the stories of the gods, they're all allegories. They're about the gods inside. And Mercury is your messenger. But yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So Venus as a hermetic principle is, bearing in mind, it's directly in the middle. It's about opposites. Everything that has an up has a down. Opposites are identical in nature, and all truths are but half truths. Remember that one, guys. All truths are but half truths. Don't attach yourself to any truths. Learn from them, take them on board, but never attach yourself as that's the absolute truth, because later down the line you'll only find out it's not. You can't have a full truth. They're only half truths. And if you can take that on board and know, well, everything's got its opposite anyway. So if you're hearing one side of the story, you're only hearing half the story, only half the truth.
What was the sentence?
Pardon?
I was just saying another sentence.
Dropping half truth, love it. So Venus being the heart chakra. Follow your heart's desires. It leads you the way you want to go. Yours is balanced. It's Libra. It's also nurturing. So make sure you do take the time out. As you said, on Mondays and Tuesdays, you have your time. That's very much needed for you, because in that 4th house, the house of I nurture, it'll either tell you about how you can nurture the outer world or how the outer world can nurture you. And more importantly, it tells you about lack of nurture and the impacts of that. So if you haven't nurtured oneself, you can fall into envious spirals, where you look outside for, oh, I wish I had this, I wish I had that, he looks great. Remember, nobody looks great, because all truths are but half truths. You see someone driving the car that you love and having the wife that you love, that's only a half truth. You have no idea what he had to do to get there, what he has to continue to do to keep it. And if you saw the full truth, you probably want nothing to do with it. So, just
What's the
bear them
fourth
up.
house?
The fourth house is I nurture. It's the house of Cancer. Cancer, the sign, obviously. And Cancer is the mother. It's ruled by the moon. It's the breast. It's the feeder. It's the nurturer. So it shows that you've got a lot of energy there. So you're a very nurturing person. You don't have any planets in Cancer, so I wouldn't necessarily say you're a healer per se. I would say where you are, where Jupiter is, you're within the esoteric, and it's linked to the moon being the water bearer. You're here to teach us about, things that we forgot, and be creative with it.
What's
Find
the difference
new ways
between
to
a
do
healer
it.
and a teacher? So I'm not here to heal people. I'm here to help people heal themselves.
I guess that's a very good way of
Alright.
putting it. Yeah.
Makes sense.
If the moon was in that fourth house, then I would say differently. Or if you had planets in Cancer, then I would say you need to find ways to heal people, especially if it was Jupiter. Because when we get to Jupiter, he's Zeus or Thor. He's the electric one, the King of Kings, King Arthur in British mythology. And that tells you where you should earn money or what you should do for a profession, which in this case is be creative with the esoteric. And it's Sagittarius, so it's the hero. So you are here to help people when they're in bad times, but not necessarily to nurture them. To guide, as you sort of put before, you're very much here to guide people, but make sure that they're the ones that take the steps and you don't take the steps for them.
It's how I've based the majority of my practices, where I am constantly trying to lead people to the water, knowing full well that they get to decide whether it's a simple.
Yeah. You can't force them to drink. I forget the saying, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's it. Lead the horse to water, but you can't make them drink it. So you desire balance. You want to sort of try to maintain that. You'll be great in a negative atmosphere. So if there's a situation, you will bring a very calming presence to it.
It's more the fact that that comes when I was telling you a while ago about I can't get into fights,
Okay.
and it's because if I'm in an area, even if there's a fight brewing, my presence alone.
Right. Yeah. And I can feel that just by sitting next to you, that you have this very calm nature to you. And this very much will come from the amount of, the fact that you've got the ruling planet in Libra and your sun's in there, so it's lit up. So Libra is the sign. A lot of people might only have the sun in Libra. If Venus is in a sign it doesn't favor, then you will be not as much Libra as the horoscope will want you to believe you are. In your case, you're very Libra, and you're also very Scorpio, which it's a bit paradoxical. The signs next to each other don't generally see eye to eye. With your peripheral vision, you can't see the person sat next to you. So the signs that are next to each other are generally very ignorant of each other. So the fact that you have two signs next to each other that have a lot that makes up you doesn't really happen that often. Quite a rare thing, and lets you be balanced. You've got the male in the male and the female in the female, with the majority of your planets in Libra anyway.
Yeah, but that makes sense in terms of if the Libra is the mother and the Scorpio is the teacher, it's wanting to be the healer when I can't.
Yeah, you'll be frustrated in life if you went to be a nurse. Yeah. Or something where you had to nurture on an everyday basis, but where you can guide people and give them the tools that they can then go and build a house with. Don't give a man a fish, give him a fishing rod, sort of thing.
Yeah.
That you're the guy that teaches the person to fish, rather than fishes for them. Somebody with all the house in nurturing would fish for the person. So your heart is about finding that balance, but you're driven to find that balance in other people as well, and try to push them that way. And hermetic principle, opposites. Sorry guys, I can imagine that wasn't very thrilling.
No, don't worry about that. They're used to watching me.
So Mercury then becomes the throat chakra to express.
I feel like I've had to work a lot on this. Like I've always been, my favourite crystal is lapis because I constantly feel like I'm forcing myself to speak.
Okay, and that comes with the fact that it's scorched by the sun. Like Libra, Mercury is not like diminished in Libra, but it's also not a sign that it necessarily favors. It should. If we look down here, right, you can see the planets, and it's got fall or it's got dom. So these are dominants. So you've got 3 dominant planets. Really, that rarely happens. And then Pluto as well as the outer planets. So yeah, so I'm referring here to the chart that sits just below the wheel, and you've got the planets listed. The first one, you see Sun. You see a little symbol that means Libra, and then you see how many degrees into Libra it is. 11 degrees, 13 minutes and 23 seconds, and it's fall. And that's because the sun is ruled by Leo, which is a fire sign. And we're not in a fire sign, we're in an air sign. Now, I personally would say that Libra isn't the worst sign for the sun to be in. The worst sign is probably Aquarius, directly opposite, or one of the water signs. But fall means that it's not at its full power. So you won't have the loudest personality in the room. Your personality will be very, calm. You don't have the desire to be, everybody look at me. You don't have that desire. So you don't need to be under the spotlight, but in doing so will make you more interesting to people than demanding the spotlight. And then you've got Venus, Mars, and Jupiter. You see Dom next to their degrees. This means that it's a dominant. It's in the dominant sign, and you see it with Pluto as well. So your desires will be very strong. You do want to be careful that it doesn't go into the realm of envy, that you don't look outwardly for your desires, and you keep an internal dialogue with yourself. And similarly with Mars, the sin of Mars is gluttony. So
I do really want a koi pond.
Well, yeah, it is, yeah. So it needs to overconsume, on the opposite, underconsume. So it's interesting that you said that you pick out, but you also fast. So Mars is all about action. So if you think about the sin of gluttony, to overfeed yourself prevents you from action. It makes you sluggish and gets in the way. It's like the opposite of action. Now with Venus, it's envy, and desire is the opposite of envy, because desire should be internal. It's only when you toxify it does it become envy. Mercury's is greed. I think you see this a lot. So Mercury rules the thinking and communication. So with thinking and communication, we can see this a lot with the gift of the gab, like celebrities or salesmen. They never seem to get enough. There's never an end to it. With Mercury and those gifted with Mercury being in a strong sign, you do want to be careful that you don't get greedy, that you don't run away with things. You might want to listen to this because you've got it in Virgo, which rules Mercury rules Virgo. So
I'm greedy.
no, it's just something that like it. So it's all Mercury is about expression and being able to communicate the truth, your true self, the light. Now, once you are able to communicate with people, it's very easy to start seeing yourself as higher and wanting more and more and more.
Right.
So that's just something to be aware of. Not saying you're greedy,
No, sorry,
but
because I'm trying to listen.
yeah,
Sorry.
I'm just sort of saying be aware
Yeah.
that like if you communicate with someone and like I want more of this, I want more of this, like it's not necessarily material greed, but it can also manifest that way as well.
That's why I tried to shut myself. Oh, I've got that. No, I don't.
Yeah,
I'm aware of it. I just it's hard. So
yeah.
I'm that he's introvert. I'm extrovert. Outwards.
Yeah. So Mercury's being scorched by the sun. It's also in retrograde. If you have a look, you won't be able to see it there, but next to the symbol of Mercury, which is the one just above the sun, there's a little R. That means it was moving backwards. When it comes to like an event, if I see Mercury moving backwards, that represents misinformation. So I would know that whatever news was put out, that it would after the retrograde period, we would generally find out information to show that that news was false in some way, shape, or form. Often happens now. So a planet moving backwards is very similar to a card being pulled upside down. It's sort of the opposite, but not exactly. It doesn't make a female planet become male. It doesn't make Mars become soft as such. So Mercury here, it means that you want to be careful of how you communicate to people. That it can be taken the wrong way. Not
That's
necessarily.
what I had to work on.
Right, yeah. It's not that you're necessarily saying it wrong, but it can be received wrong. Um, so yeah.
It was. I mean, my wife was talking about this earlier. It's that whole. She knows that I don't hold malice in my words, but because I say things so quickly and they just come out as they are, it can very easily be construed that way if
Right,
you don't
yeah.
know me.
Yeah. So it's beautiful with the chart that I can say something that we've not spoke about, and then you'd be like, "Yeah, I've already started working on that."
Yeah.
Because deep down, we're all aware of our charts, just through conditioning. We forget, a child is very well aware. If I talk to a child about their chart, they understand it. Because there's less conditioning that's gone into that child, um, or at least you hope. Okay, so what does Mercury and Libra mean? Well, we can't just say it as simply as that because it's literally where the sun is. So the sun and Mercury, you wouldn't have been able to see Mercury. It'd have been completely scorched by the sun, completely behind it. But
So does that mean I don't have to worry
um,
about it?
it means it's somewhat lesser. But it's also so the light you give off, what you project, is a beautiful light for being able to express and communicate. So you will be a good communicator. It'll be really hard for you to go off topic. Like you've got to be tunnel visioned, and that is how you get your best out of Mercury. Um, it's got to be a balanced way. So you never want to speak on anything where you're biased. You want to try and be the like a, a journalist, but not a modern day journalist. The ones where they were supposed to be unbiased. Um, that type of journalist. So when you come to express through the internet, as you do, you want to make sure that you've left your biases, uh, by the
Yeah.
door, sort of thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Um, so you're a gifted communicator, but like you're not driven that way. Being in the spotlight is somewhat uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, we've already discussed
yeah.
that. Yeah.
So you're but you want to communicate because it's that fourth house. the reason you want to communicate is to help people find that balance, to help, nurture them, but nurture them to find balance themselves, not necessarily to wipe the bums for them. Uh, so that then brings us on to the sixth of the seven wandering stars. This is Jupiter, the brow chakra, the pineal gland, the lightning bearer. That takes us to Thor or Zeus. And we've got the brow chakra. So it's in Sagittarius, which is fantastic. It rules Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the hero, the problem solver, the Hercules, or well, wherever there's a hero in mythology with a singular weapon. So Hercules has his club. King Arthur has Excalibur. Zeus has his lightning bolt. Thor has his hammer. There's a pattern of going on of the chosen son with a weapon. This is Jupiter. It's the arrow.
I'm just trying to think. Maybe that's why I like
Sagittarius.
doing
Okay, yeah. Well, you'd probably be pretty good at archery. I'd say that. Have you ever done archery?
I have. I actually really enjoyed it. I've only tried it a few times.
Okay.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it when I did it.
Yeah. It's anybody with Jupiter in Sagittarius, or with Mars in Sagittarius for that, I would recommend doing some form of archery. Or things like it,
So
the
shooting.
axe throwing or shooting. Yeah. It should at the very least be good fun for you. Find creative ways to do it. It's in the house of creativity. It shows that you can be very successful in this life. Having Jupiter in Sagittarius, you have the potential to be really successful, especially if you're creative with it. What will block you from doing that, which we'll get to soon, is not being disciplined.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah. But I mean, that's so if you follow, Jupiter looks like a 4 or looks like a 2 with a cross in it. It's just with the red arrow pointing downwards. In the 5th house, the box that's got a 5 in the top left, it's the furthest one along, right near the 6th house. That's where Jupiter is. I see it as a 4 because it fits with Thor. So from there, if you follow it up, you've got a red line, and that red line feeds us to Saturn, to discipline and authority. So it shows that there's a blockage between that discipline and the ability to expand, opportunity to grow. If you're, that's what's essentially going to block you from being successful. But you have potential to be really successful in this lifetime, providing that you're able to stay playful, that you're able to be creative, to not follow the book too much. I think if you was to go and get a general job, you sort of mentioned before I even saw your chart, it would just bring you down. Freedom is very important. Looking at this chart, I'm thinking that once you've left the place where you are, your shop, you should take it on the road somehow. You should find a way of fitting it all into a trailer or something, and going around, because I think you would really, you'd be great, Sagittarius being the hero means you that you're a problem solver. You will find creative solutions to problems. Be aware of that. So, right, the opposite of problem solving, the sin, is sloth. Sloth is binge watching TV, laziness. It's not engaging with life. And obviously, if you're solving everyone's problems, then staying on being a couch potato is the opposite of that. So when Jupiter is not working right for you, when your brow chakra is not working right, you will be lethargic. You'll be, you just want to lay down all day. watch TV and stuff. That's like really unhealthy for you. A really like bad habit to get into, and that's why that's where the self-discipline comes into it. That's one of your big blocks. Although you might have got over that at this point. Although it will still manifest.
Because that's the whole. If I'm having a bad day, I do sometimes need to just. I can spend 12 hours on my laptop and just ignore the world, and it's like I'm never in that situation for a long period of time.
Right.
But it's. I see it as a bonus that I have something to fall back on. But it may be something that I just need to try and let go of.
I mean, everything is good in small doses. We do need rest just as much as we need work, but you don't want to slip into that being like, bleeding into the next day, and the next day, you want to, when you've had your time of rest, now is the time to, get up and solve a problem, create a solution. It's a fire sign, so
that is my only fire sign.
Yeah, and not to speak ill of the other fire signs, but it's a good sign, especially to have Jupiter in. So yeah, I'd recommend setting a fire. I'd recommend shooting arrows. Arrows isn't that big of a, like, you can chill out and fire arrows. It's not that big of a strenuous activity.
I was I see myself as a bit of a fire king when we do like bonfires and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's funny because me and Els actually work really well together when we light a fire, because she'll be constantly fueling little bits, and then I'm able to like get it really big.
Nice. Yeah. I get a lot of enjoyment from setting a fire. But to me, a fire is the best form of TV.
Yeah, the only thing that beats it for me is waterfalls.
Okay. Yeah. I'm more into fire than waterfalls, but you've got quite a bit of water energy. Mars being in Scorpio, which is quite literally a waterfall. It's the fall that is the river. So the final one is the crown, which can only be the sun, the 1000th petaled chakra. The sun, and this tells us about our personality, how we shine, the light we give off. So very similar to Mercury. Really, when we looked at Mercury, we was looking at the sun, because the two are the same in your chart. They exist together. So the sun's sin is pride. The sun rules Leo. Leo's the lion. The lions have pride. Have prides. So your sun isn't in. If your sun was in Leo, then pride would be a big factor. I don't necessarily think it is in your chart. I think that you seem to be. This reads as fairly humble.
I'm not like I don't so much care about other people's opinions if they're negative. Like, they just don't affect me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm humble, but it's more on the other side of that coin, where it just doesn't affect me because I know not to hold on to those emotions. That's someone else's problem with me, not mine.
Yeah, absolutely. Just for the benefit of everyone, pride is often confused in the modern day sense. There's nothing wrong with you being proud of your work, of your accomplishments, of what you've contributed on the earth. Please, by all means, be proud of them. Pride becomes a problem when you see yourself as higher or lesser than another being. We are all equal. We are born equal. Regardless of what's in someone's pocket, what they drive, or what they wear, we are equal. So when you see a homeless person on the street and you fall over, and he comes up to help you, and you think, oh, It's okay. It's okay. You've got it worse off than me. Don't worry. That's pride. And when you see someone who's driving a Bentley and has an Armani suit on and such, and they fall over, and you're like, well, he's got everything he needs. I'm not helping him up. That's also pride. Pride is when you no longer see yourself as equal in both ways. And that's what the sun is guilty of, or can be. His positive thing, though, is just knowing. The sun, the gift, is knowing. And this is what we get when we sun gaze, we sun worship. You know, it takes away the thoughts, the beliefs, and just leaves you with knowing. I don't know if anybody does sun gaze. I'm a big fan of it, to be honest. So yeah, your sun wants to communicate with people, but it doesn't want to be in the spotlight, as we sort of mentioned before. It wants to somewhat be private, but also you want to be known.
Well, that's Libra.
Yeah. You know, it's the air sign, so air's I'd say the hardest one of the signs to control. It's hard to put air in a box. It just
No, but this is
more
where,
free.
like, I have found my freedom by unearthing myself.
Okay.
Because if I don't need to be grounded on the earth, if I know where I am whilst in the air.
Right.
So, like, I do all the grounding exercises, and I've done that on stream before, but I don't need to physically know where my feet are to know that I'm exactly where I need to be.
Right.
That's just
Yeah.
how I view it.
That's a beautiful way of looking at it. Yeah, and a very balanced way of looking at it as well. Very in tune with Libra. But yeah, it shows that you're really good. You know, with that balance of like a one-on-one. I wouldn't necessarily recommend you like doing an hour's talk to hundreds of people.
Yeah.
I feel like you'd be uncomfortable with it. Yeah. But if you spoke to all of those 100 people one-on-one, then it'd be golden. Yeah, and that's where it is for you. So that breaks down the 7 wandering stars. These are the stars that you can see with your eyes. Obviously, it depends on whether they're on the night part of the sky and stuff. But throughout the year, you'll be able to see them. Then there are the other planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. These 3 particularly, I acknowledge them because whilst we need devices to see them, we can see them with just optics and light. If the only way we could ever see them was through computer algorithms and whatnot, then I wouldn't be so into them. But no, we can see them with just the use of mirrors. So they're there. They're just not immediately available to us. We have to go looking for them. So this gives off a different energy and it becomes external. So we have Uranus, which is the archetype of change. Anybody into the myths? The Greek myth of Prometheus is very much about Uranus. And obviously Uranus is also one of the first deities with Gaia. Although I'm not quite sure that's referring specifically to the planet, but I do think Prometheus is. So your Uranus, without realizing I spelled it the old way, so like, yeah, Uranus is change. Yours is in Capricorn. Not a great sign for Uranus, Capricorn. Capricorn doesn't like change. It's got a job to do. It's got to get up that hill. Don't change the hill. You know, don't change your route. It's in the 7th house of I partner. Now, it's easy to see that 7th house as specifically romantic partners, but that's not its intention. We form many types of partnerships through life. You know, business partnerships and friendships and of course the romantic partnerships. Now, the romance part of it is mostly found with the opposite. So if you're male, you want to have a look at where your Venus is, and if you're female, you want to have a look at where Mars is. That is our other half as such. And also, it's very good to look at your moon. If you can find somebody where their sun is in your moon sign and your sun is in their moon sign, then you'd find that you'd just be able to click with that person. So what then is this house of this 7th house? Well, if it doesn't have Mars, Venus, or the moon in it, it's probably not that focused on a romantic partner. In this sense, it's in Capricorn, so it's a rough environment, which means that there's growth to be had here, and it's got change. So you need to, throughout life, you need to change the way that you partner with people. Again, the word partner, you immediately relate it to your partner, but Venus here shows that what you need to look for in a relationship is balance. You need to find someone who's your opposite, you know. That's a very healthy thing for you to do. Here, well, I think we're mostly talking about social groups and stuff. Those types of partnerships. You want to change them, not necessarily change the people, but change how you approach new people. You know, as you meet them, you want to be fluid. Don't be too regimented.
I mean, how my friendship groups have grown have been completely different almost in every stage of my life.
Okay. Yeah.
Even when we started dating, the way that we got together and used to talk to each other is completely different now. We speak to each other now.
Right. Yeah.
And just because we've learned more about both of us.
Yeah, you want to encourage that evolution as well. You know. If things stay the same and are stale within a partnership,
one of the best pieces of advice I was ever given was you wake up every day and expect the world to be different.
Right. Yeah.
And that goes for everything. So, like, if I wake up tomorrow and my wife felt like a different person, it's probably because she is.
Yeah.
And therefore, you can't get angry about it.
Yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's very grounded, which, you know, Capricorn being an earth sign. I mean, it's a tough sign, so there's growth to be had there. And do you think that having to sort of being free to change how you speak with certain people and new people and people that you hadn't spoke to before, do you think you're better at it now than you were?
100%.
Yeah.
I've had some awful periods of my life when it comes to that was the whole thing I was saying earlier about lapis. I just wouldn't speak my truth. I wasn't good at being honest with anyone.
Right. Yeah.
It's something I quite literally had to drill into myself.
Right.
And only now I can say that I'm at a point that I can do it pretty reliably.
Beautiful. Yeah, so wherever Uranus is in the chart represents where changes will manifest. Neptune rules the dream or sleep state. It can rule when we're daydreaming, rule when we've taken certain substances, we've gone to a realm that is not this one. So there are 3 brothers. You've got Jupiter, who rules the heavens and the earth, Neptune, who rules the seas, and or Poseidon, in fact, if we're talking Greek myth, and then Hades or Pluto, who rules where we pass on to, wherever our energy goes, whether it be Tartarus or Helheim or back here, if you're into reincarnation. So Neptune being the dream and sleep state. So your Neptune is in the 7th house. So that means that, like, you always sort of dreamt of partnering. You've never really seen life just you. It's always you plus you and someone. At least that's where your daydreams will
I've
go.
always had and it is usually just me and one other person, and not even relationship-wise. When I was at primary school, I had a best friend. We did everything together. College, I had a best friend. We did everything together. Uni, I had a best friend. We did everything together. When I got out of uni and I was in that awkward stage where I was finding my job and stuff, I had a best friend at Salsa. We did everything together.
Okay.
And now that me and my wife are together, we do everything together.
Yeah. So I mean, you've got a pretty active present policy, at least with the outer planets, and that's your daydream. How you see yourself is with a partner. That's what sort of Neptune is showing here. Although it's in Capricorn, so there's growth to be had there. There will have been partnerships that didn't work, and also dreams that don't work. It's a be careful what you wish for sort of thing. If we got our manifestations immediately, it wouldn't be good for us. So yeah, then we get to Pluto. Often can be shown. It's shown as a P here. Sometimes I'll just show the other two symbols it can be shown as. So it often can have two little antennas on the P, or it can be this circle with a rounded and a cross. And surprisingly, you see this symbol on windows in churches a fair lot. That one, there being a cross, a circular window. It's also, just to go back to the very beginning, where we've got Saturn here. You can see it there, but you can also see it on the chart. See how it's a cross on a hill? Pay very close attention to any Christian cult-like flyers and stuff you'll get. They've always got a cross on a hill. Always. Think of Christ the Redeemer in Brazil and stuff, Pay attention to where you've got a cross on a hill, because that's the ancient symbol of Saturn or Satan.
Yeah.
you with flyers, you see it an awful lot, and that's how I know I'm burning this. So Pluto it's the dark stuff, really. It can teach you about your shadow work, teach you about how you handle secrets. It's often seen as a maleficent planet. I don't necessarily see it quite that way, because by confronting your shadow self, by confronting the darkness, is the only way to get to the light, in my opinion. Or at least it's the quickest way to get to the light, is to walk down that tunnel. And you don't want to suppress too much down there, so you do have to acknowledge it from time to time. Pluto for you holds many gifts, because it's in the sign that it favors. It's the esoteric. We can look at the attack on the esoteric over the last 1,000 years or so. Might be better saying the last 600 years or so, but there's definitely been an attack on the esoteric. Only recently, maybe turn of the 20th century or something, as it started to resurface, and which is a beautiful thing, because it's a tool that allows us to see the shadow work that needs to be done. It's a revealing tool, the occult of the esoteric. But that would all be labelled under the Plutonian. Now, it's very easy to see Pluto as a dark planet. It's very easy to see Hades as the enemy, like how Hercules, the Disney film, has Hades as the enemy. Hades to me, is not inherently evil. He's just a guy who's been given a bad stick. He doesn't necessarily want to be ruling Tartarus or Hell. Yeah, he wasn't given a choice. But he's very just. In the Greek myths, if you're good, you will go to Elysium. There's no suffering. Only suffering if you deserve suffering, And this is the same with Hela, with the Nordic myths. And these rulers of these darker places, to me, don't necessarily seem to be dark entities. They seem to be very just entities. What you give is what you get. And I think it does us no good being afraid so much directly of the dark. It's something that we need to acknowledge so that we can move past it into the light. At least that's my opinion. So like, I'm not as scared of Pluto as I guess some people may be. It feels like a scary character, but I think that's a lot of conditioning. He's someone definitely to be respected. And yeah, when we talk about when I look at it in a person's chart, I will reveal, you know, whether they should hold on to secrets. Some people just straight up shouldn't. You know, I'm one of those. Secrets doesn't work well with me. I have to be honest, straight up, because I know it will have a detrimental effect on me to hold a secret for somebody, or to feel like I have to tell a lie. It doesn't sit right. Other people are more comfortable with that sort of stuff. For you, not so much. I would strongly try to avoid you to stay on the path of truth as much as you can.
I can't lie. I've tried. I failed hard.
This comes from this blockage with the moon. If you abuse Pluto, if you misuse it, then it will have a serious detrimental effect on your feelings and your emotional core, and probably lead you to some quite nasty depression. To speak honestly.
Yeah, I've tried and it doesn't work.
Yeah. But you know, every single person are different. You know, but I usually think that it is a life lesson. It's part of your journey here to, you know, be comfortable with the truth, you know, and be comfortable in expressing that. Cool. So that's the quick run through the planets. Say quick. I don't know how long we've been on for, but you can. Okay, we're an hour and 45. Well, but I mean, honestly, you can spend 9 hours on just this section. You know. So from here, I would start to break down these lines, and I want to start with the moon, because the moon rules this chart. Again, the moon rules the chart because the AC, the ascendant sign, is Cancer. Moon rules Cancer. Okay, so with the moon, we've got this lovely blue line that stretches down to Venus. So a trine is a supporting structure. Let's just go through this quickly. So we've got, this is where numerology fits a little bit into astrology, where numbers have meanings. Number 1 is called a conjunction, and that is unity. That's the two planets in unity with each other, like Mercury and the Sun in this scenario. And I'll draw you it simple as... Sorry, I've just forgotten how to do it. It's just a little line with a thing on it. And number 2 is an opposition and represents duality. So we would generally say that a 1, the planets being together, is a positive thing. And we would say that an opposition, them being opposite each other, creates conflict, which is a negative thing. However, you know, I don't necessarily like the word negative. If you have a lot of oppositions in your chart, that means that you're going to develop loads in this life. And whilst it might feel like blockages whilst you're living these lessons, once you get to the end of them, you hopefully will realize that every single lesson was a blessing. But yeah, it's like yin and yang, you know, negative and positive. We have to give words to them, but they're both just as needed. You don't get one without the other. So 3 is a trine, and this is a supporting structure. Now there's trines, and then there's sextiles. A sextile is 6, so it's like half a trine. The difference between them, a triangle is the most supportive structure. There isn't one that beats it. Now, I like to use the analogy of 2 boys, and one of them wants to see over this wall. With a trine, his friend just helps him up it. No questions asked. He's gonna get his friend over the wall. However, with a sextile, it now becomes it's a bit slower. It's less immediate. It's more of a negotiation. So instead of helping his mate up the wall, instead he says, "Well, why don't we find out what's at the other side of it, or if there's anything on top of it, you know, like barbed wire, or maybe we should just check for a gate, just on the off chance." One scenario, the kid's over the wall. He's got what he wanted, but he's being, you know, dragged about by a guard dog at the other side of that wall. The other scenario, the children investigate a little bit. It takes a little bit longer, but the outcome is generally better. You know, patience is generally a good thing. If we manifest and it came to us immediately, more often than not, it wouldn't be healthy for us. So with a trine, we've got our best supporting structures, and we would obviously call that a positive. Then we've got a square, which is like a semi-opposition, and this would be this is an obstacle, something that has to be overcome. Think of like I started before with the 7 and the 4. So the 7 is consciousness, is life, it's phases. The 4 becomes like more material, more things in your way, physical things. So a square is an obstacle. It's something that is a blockage. Here we have a square between the moon and Mars. So we'll get to that. Then we have a 5, which is called a quincunx. That's spelled Quincunx. And that is, it's ignorance really. It's seen here. Oh, we don't have any in this chart. But wherever you see it, it means that these two signs aren't communicating with each other. So it's a good, as an astrologer, it's a good way to encourage that person to be aware of that, and you know, make sure that you before you make a decision of the heart, you check in with the gut just to make sure it feels right before you want to buy something or sleep with someone, or you know, many things that we could do. That symbolizes a Q, and so it's neither negative or positive, the quincunx. It completely depends on the signs, the planets, what they're doing. It can be great for some people that maybe their Pluto is completely ignorant of their sun, so they're not pulled into, you know, depressive states so often. However, it can mean that they're, you know, happy in a more toxic way as well, because you need the darkness to see the light. So then the final one that I'm writing here is the sextile, which is the 6. It's the negotiation. It's the so you've got one here. It's just dividing it into 6. So like if you skip a zodiac, you've got this. So that's a trine. That's a sextile. This is a square. You don't actually have any oppositions. There's nothing at the other end, is it? The other side of the chart. So yeah, sextiles are brilliant. They're slow. They take time, but when you get there, they're usually a beautiful outcome. So sextile is. I started writing negotiation and wrote negative. Negotiation, I'm keeping it. And then it looks like a little asterisk, and it's so just put that up there in case anybody wants to do a quick screenshot or something. But I mean, you can Google them. They're called aspects. The angles in the heavens are known as aspects. So if anybody wants to do any research on those, I've got a couple of good books, but I can't. I think one's called Aspects in Astrology, but I can't remember the author. But there's plenty of stuff online to look at. So we start with the moon, and we can see that we've got this beautiful trine between the moon and Venus and the heart. So it generally means that your feelings, your gut instinct, and your heart are very aligned. What you desire, you desire based on emotional feelings. You're not so driven to material things unless you have your gut is guiding you.
It's funny you say that my heart and stomach are aligned, because I constantly get told the whole you've got three minds.
Okay.
Your head, your stomach, and your heart. I'm just there going, then why do I only hear two voices? But it makes sense if they're saying the same thing. Then I am only hearing two.
Yeah. The moon supports the heart. The gut supports the heart. So I would very much trust your gut. But again, trust your heart. You know, they're singing from the same hymn sheet. And that works really nicely because they're both feminine. The two feminine planets. So the fact that they're talking nicely means that you've got a nice feminine energy to you. It's not strained or conflicted. So from the moon, what would prevent us from these two being aligned? Well, we're staying with the moon for a minute. If we go down, we've got this blockage and that's to Pluto. So this is holding on to secrets or trying to tell lies or trying to discuss, trying to cover the truth in any way. It's also if you ignore the pull that you have to the esoteric, you ignore. Now you've opened a box. You've opened Pandora's box. You can't close it now.
I realised that a long time.
Yeah. So if you start to ignore it, then your feelings and your desires are going to get warped because of that. You know, you're in this game now, I'm afraid to say. And then on the other side with Venus, why Venus wouldn't be communicating with the gut, with the moon so much, is because of you not being able to adapt to changes or finding yourself procrastinating, daydreaming too much, and not engaging with reality. So yeah, you've got this blessing that your heart is in tune with your gut. You can really trust your gut that it's gonna steer you right. But you've got to make sure in order to do that you're not blocking your Pluto, and you're also you're not comfortable with the changes. So these are indicators. So you know that your moon and your Venus are not communicating with one another. If you find that you're not able to read the cards, or they're not, you know, if anything's muddy in the waters with the esoteric, there's a blockage there that you need to go and solve, or that things just keep changing in a way that's really like rocking you. You know, I mean, what's the word? Like coincidences are a perfect way of doing it. Like for me, a coincidence means coincidence. It's where, you know, the divine interacts with us. The messages, the more coincidental something is, the more of a message it is to me. We're looking at these coincidences, you know, and wherever we see them that are negative to us, like, you know, things just keep changing. Like we've set our journey out, and now we realize on the day the bus times have changed. Like that's a massive inconvenience and also a coincidence that it happened on that day. So that tells you that you're not aligned in some way. So you want to have a look at your Venus, understand that, okay, my Venus is in the sign of Mercury and also in the sign of nurture.
Should I take that as a sign? If I'm not aligned, then it probably wasn't meant to happen than I'm doing something wrong.
You might have to explain that.
So what you said about the bus, if you go to the bus stop and it's delayed and you don't get the bus you wanted, should I go, I am out of alignment, or do I go, I was pursuing the wrong thing and what's meant to happen is I'm meant to get delayed? Should I be positive about it or negative?
I think the bus analogy was a bad one. I think in that case you should be positive about it. So going back into the chart, and I must remember to not forget the house that it's in, the 7th house. So when it comes to changes, So this is with in the way that we partner. So if you are not in tune with your partner, it doesn't have to be the romantic one. You know, there are other partners. But if the goalpost keeps getting changed between you and your partner, things that you've agreed with, then you need to look back and make sure that your moon is cared for. You care for your moon by exploration. You know, if your moon's not in alignment, if your gut feels off, then you need to change your environment. That's like hugely important. And then with your heart, if you find yourself that you're being really envious instead of having true desires, then you need to go and find some balance. You know, or being in that 4th house, you need nurturing. You need to go and find yourself a healer. Maybe do Reiki or I don't know, shiatsu massage. Or
I would say this would help.
yeah. This definitely for the mind. However, the body needs nurturing as well, and so does the soul. So, right. So this shows the moon, and I just like to follow it across. So the blockage between Venus and the partner, this, you know, changes happening with the partner, not being able to connect on the same line. If that's not happening, then you've got this little sextile here between the 7th house and the 10th, between Saturn and Uranus and Neptune. So this is a blessing. It means that like you can have a highly disciplined approach to changes and to your dreams, and that you can target them, you can see them, they become material to you. You're able to manifest essentially, but you can't do that if you haven't got this between the moon and Venus. You know, so be aware of, you know, the moon. Also be aware that you're doing tasks at the right time. You know, don't try and start a project during a waning moon. You know,
What is it? Are you meant to start on a full moon or end of a full moon?
So I would say you could start on a new moon, and then it comes into fruition on a full moon when she's pregnant, and then you're supposed to harvest that seed during a waning moon. Now it's important. It's very important that you cleanse the previous moon. You don't want to bring one month into another. So when you get to a new moon, make sure that you've either accomplished the task that you set out to accomplish, or you've come to terms with the fact that you're not going to get it done. Don't bring like unsettled energies into a new moon, well, as much as you can in a way, because that will affect.
By that logic, you should be on almost a 2-month or an 8-week cycle. So you start on a new moon, you complete on a full moon, you harvest it during that time, and then you wait until the end of that cycle until you start again.
Yeah.
So you can manifest something every 8 weeks.
Well, it's a 4-week cycle.
Well, how long is it between a full and a new and full moon?
2 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So like a month would be 4 weeks in a month, 28 days. Yeah. I mean, obviously they're all longer term projects, but you break them up, you know. So at the start of a month, you'd be like, what do I want to achieve? A new moon, what do I want to have achieved by the time I've got a full moon? And then after the full moon, this is the waning phase. So like the first week, you can still be working on that project, but you really want it to have come to fruition within that week. And then after then, that's the last week of the 4. Really, that's about rest and preparing for the next month. Like you can take a project into the next month, but you have to come to terms with it. You know, don't bring guilt into the next month. That's the big one, and that's ultimately what doing all this you try to avoid, because
I like that
come
idea.
to terms with it.
I just like the idea of staggering, like when I'm doing the spells and the rituals and stuff like that. I'm going to be focusing on this for 2 weeks. I'm going to be harvesting for a week and then I am going to be resting.
Like during a waning moon, I would recommend healing, protection, those kind of spells, the spells that fill you up, and then during the waxing phases, it would be the creative type spells that we'll be doing in those kind of rituals. But yeah, there's loads of information on that online and stuff. You've got some Moonology cards in your shop. There's a great book that's linked to those cards called Moonology, and that's one. Whilst I don't own it, I have had the chance to look through it in quite some depth, and it does seem a really good book, one that I could recommend. So then we want to start to break down the rest of these blessings. I'm very pulled towards Saturn here because
Just quickly, what is the difference between green, blue, and red?
so it shows us down here. So anybody who wants to look into it in more detail, the chart underneath shows that like you've got this like triangle part to it. You've got the planets running down the side. You've got the planets running down the side and along the top, and it's how they meet shows you the angle. So blue represents trine, or it represents sextile.
And that's positive.
Yeah. So blue's positive. Yeah, but basically blue's positive, red is negative or blockage, and the green is the sort of the quincunx area. It doesn't divide it into 5 there. I think that's a semi-quincunx or something, but it's ignorance. So your gut and your feelings aren't necessarily in tune with your daydreaming. So like you can go away with the fairies and not really pay attention to how you're feeling, you know, and that you're not neglecting oneself, because the moon is all about taking time to nurture and look after yourself.
Yeah, my stomach and my heart are in tune. Yeah, my head's stuck.
Yeah. Essentially. So going from Saturn, we can go down to Mars. Incredibly supportive here. So when you're disciplined, you can just act, you can just get it done. That's very much a gift. And then it brings you, you've got 2 sextiles between them where your dreams are and where changes are. So when you're disciplined, you can enact the changes that you dream. You know, quite literally, you can manifest.
Wait, say that again?
So when you're disciplined,
God damn it.
yeah, but when you're disciplined, Mars will direct you towards creating the changes that you dream about. But it all.
I've always known it.
Saturn's right at the top there.
But it requires so much.
It does, and you know that's what you'd have got if you'd have gone to be a monk.
Yeah,
You know.
that's what I wanted to.
So maybe there's something to that. Okay. Yeah, that's a good idea, right?
I don't want to, even though I wasn't able to become a monk, I definitely haven't written that off.
Yeah. There's no, like, you can't be too old to be a monk, can you? So like, it's always there. So just go to the bottom of the screen now, and we've got Mercury and the Sun again. And you've got this blue line, this sextile. It's a really thick one, so the angle's quite exact with Jupiter. So your communication, the way you speak to people one-on-one, is what's going to earn you great money. Or whether we want to see money, I would say wealth.
No, I know what you're saying.
Or riches. Now, do you want to know where the blockage is?
Yep, go on.
It's up to Saturn. You know, it's not being disciplined.
I hate that.
Yeah. You know how much here leads back to Saturn, you know. So yeah.
I think I'm just gonna go away for 4 months, but no.
Please don't.
No. Yeah, but by the looks of it, for me to be productive in my life, I have to have military discipline.
Not just, I mean, it's nothing else matters.
Yeah, it's discipline within Pisces, so it's about being able to not attach yourself to the fish, to be the observer, be that kind of discipline where you acknowledge that you are not part of reality, you are
I
observing
see it
it.
more in terms of taking action because I'm really good at taking action when I want to, but
Okay.
90% of the time I don't want to take action.
Right.
And therefore, hence, when I put my mind to something, it always goes really well.
As the observer, just that
That fits for sure.
you're seeing it wrong, and that's why you don't want to take action. Because
Yeah, well, Saturn is how you take action. It's Saturn, trine, to Mars. Mars is action. You know, and there's not much else going on here. We've got this trine, and we've got this blockage. That's it. Just
Yeah.
this beautiful gift here, where you know, you can be the authority that gets change done based on your dreams, based on, you know, what you envision. Now, what's stopping you from getting stuff done is the moon. The moon, it can show, you know, sort of depression, not feeling good about oneself. Also, its sin is lust. Now, Libra can be quite a lustful sign.
Yeah, this is where I'm glad I went to uni. I got that one.
Good. Okay. So, the two most lustful signs, in all honesty, is Scorpio and Libra. Libra is the female to it, and Scorpio is the male version of it. You've got the tail and the scales become the breast. So yeah, that is something that it's good that you got that out of your system, because that is something that would have caused a blockage to you as well. So yeah, more this here, but you know, it's not a very thick blockage. The thickest blockage you've got going on is Venus, and so you've got an incredible imagination, right? You've got too much going on here not to have, but that imagination can become warped into being envy, and you can start, rather than picturing you having what you've got, you picture someone who's already got it and you want it, and that's toxic, and that's one of the things that's really, you know, that's your major blockage.
I'm surprised that's as thick as it is.
Yeah.
In terms of, I understand why it's there, and it's definitely been there in the past. But I'd say, especially the side of envy,
Yeah.
almost completely got rid of it.
That's beautiful. However, it may come back, you know.
So it's just something I need to be wary of.
Yeah. Because whilst that's thick, so is the blessing, you know. So you're always going to be pulled to have your heart and your gut aligned anyway. It naturally wants to be, and you almost have to push it towards the blockage. But it's most of the time when we go through these bad times, it's us that do it to ourselves, you know, whether we subconsciously do it or consciously. I know I can only speak for myself, but whenever I've gone through my toughest trials in life, I am ultimately the one responsible for it. So yeah, that was we're 2 hours and 10 minutes in, so that's a good place.
Yeah, because I can finish up with a quick fire round for everyone on the street. But in terms of that, that's hit the nail on the head, especially for me.
Sweet.
Did you want to? Well, before we end the stream and do a quick fire round, I should ask: is there any questions for us, especially for Rogan? It can be, again, we had that question earlier. I think we already answered it about how important is it that you know your hour. I don't know if you wanted to
Yeah.
clarify that again.
So if you have a look at the chart just next to me, the zodiac, the symbols around it, of which there are 12, they turn, or we turn. From our perspective, it seems like the sky is turning. Every 2 hours, the sign that's on the ascendant sign, where Cancer is, where you've got the 6 and the 9 on the side, in 2 hours' time, that'll be Leo. In 2 hours' time, again, that'll be Virgo. And that determines what planet rules the chart. So that's a really big impact on your life. So, being where yours is now, in about 45 minutes time, it will have been at the start of Leo. Massive change in the person there. It also can affect, so it affects which house every planet's in as well, because as the zodiac's turning through those houses. And it affects the moon as well, because the moon only spends 2.5 days in a sign. So she might be towards the end of one sign at one time, but she might be in another at the start of the next sign at another time. So it does matter. There are ways that you can get around it, but you need to have a really strong understanding of who you are, because that chart is only going to fit you in one orientation. All the rest, it just isn't going to fit. It isn't going to sound true. But that requires you to have a very mature understanding of oneself, in order for us to get there. I've done that quite a few times. It does take a little while, because you turn the wheel and then I'd ask questions, and to see if it fits, and if it doesn't, we have to keep turning that wheel. How do you find out the time? If your mum doesn't know, you have to contact the hospital. If you're in Britain, your mum has to contact the hospital for you, because your files are saved under your mum's name. And if you are unfortunate enough to have lost your mother, then unfortunately you need to find her death certificate and go that path.
Oh, welcome in here, boys. I saw you came late, but no, I will say this will be on YouTube, so people can watch this VOD. But what's your question?
Shall I read it?
Yeah.
So, Inner Voice 444 says, I would be curious what your thoughts are on compatibility between lovers based on birth charts. Is that something you look into at all, or any specific things that you would look for in terms of compatibility? Great. So the first one I'd look for is where your moon is. If you get a partner who has her sun where your moon is, then that means she understands how you feel. So emotionally, you'll be on the same page. And if you can get that both way around, that's really great, really great. Then you want to look at Venus and Mars. Venus being the feminine and Mars being the masculine. So, not everybody's the same, but if you're heterosexual and you are female, then you would want to look where Mars is. That would be a good indication of, what sort of masculine features you're attracted to. And it would be helpful if whatever sign your Mars is in, that your partner had their Venus in that sign, or at least it related. So if it was an Earth sign, it would be an Earth sign. This is just to make sure that, like, Mars and Venus, it's very much about the sexual connection, and you want to be on the same page there. And the sun and the moon, this is like your personality and how you feel. It's good to do synastry charts, which is to overlay one wheel over another and to see whether there are many red lines, the blockages, the squares, or the oppositions, and whether there are any blue lines. Generally, I would try and avoid a partner who is the opposite zodiac to you. So if your sun is in Cancer, I would try to avoid a Capricorn. However, you could also find a wonderful partner in Capricorn, and this is why. You don't see the same picture. A Capricorn does not see the same picture as a Cancerian. However, only together can they see the full picture. You have to, in regards to a relationship in that way, you have to let ego aside. right? If you've got ego there that wants your version of that picture to be the true picture, you're just going to butt heads. It's not going to work. But if the partnership is mature to a point where you can respect the fact that each person sees a different picture, then you can have a really beautiful relationship out of that. So yeah, I think astrology gives us a lot of information on compatibility. However, trust your gut. It won't steer you wrong. Your gut will know. Try to ignore the mind a little bit in this, because the mind doesn't know what it wants from day to day. But trust the mother, the moon. Trust that gut instinct. And then once you've got someone who tunes with that gut instinct, you'll probably find that their chart will fit quite nicely with yours anyway.
Warrior Princess, what do you think of the Chinese horoscope? Is there a big difference?
There is a big difference, but it's not to be discredited. I also really like the Indian one and how they use their house system. Very different chart system to us. To learn astrology like I have, Hellenic or Western astrology, I put in thousands of hours, and I imagine I'd have to do an equal amount for the Chinese and Indian. So whilst I have done a little bit of studying in regards to those, it's nowhere near as big. In my opinion, the Chinese astrology follows, what's it called? Jupiter. Jupiter spends a year in every sign. It takes 12 years to do a full cycle, and can relate with the horse being wood and metal, and I'm blanking here. I'm really sorry. The snake and the rat and they fit very similar to how Jupiter passes through the zodiac. But I'm not well researched enough in those regards to give you any deeper opinions. But I wouldn't discredit them. They're different approaches to the same energy, and if you can find 2 or 3 approaches, then do that, because it only enriches your outcome.
If that's everything.
Thank you very much for listening today, guys. It's been an absolute blessing. God bless you and love you.
I've been able to listen in on and off. We do have just one more question, Rogan. How long does it take for someone to get a reading?
Wow. So I generally try to do it within 2 hours, but it often goes 2.5 to 3 hours. And this is because there's a lot to go through. And often my chart readings end up doubling up as lessons as well, because people who want a chart reading are also just generally interested in astrology. So, and I do teach it. So it's, but I if you was to have a reading with me, I expect it to be over 2 hours. It more than likely is, as I'm sure Oren here can attest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, ours was just over 2 hours. It's about 2 hours and 10. So yeah, you would have to set some time aside. Put it that way. So let's finish with a quick fire round. This is for everyone that's listened. I haven't even checked YouTube. The biggest block is sin. Welcome, Chris, for those watching on YouTube as well. Did you lot hear any of the music? Because I turned it down so much that we couldn't even hear it. That's because you're complicated. Thank you, Warrior Princess. And so, we all know how this works. If you've been watching, write the word angel followed by your question, and we'll go through the queue, and then we'll find someone to rate. Yeah, we heard it the whole time. Oh, perfect. Pine on YouTube, welcome in. Yeah, I hope we, because this was something different. The response, I'm really glad. And I'll tell you what, I did learn a lot about myself. Like I knew that I had to be disciplined, and the fact that it was like my biggest fault is gut wrenching, but it's something I'm just gonna have to work on. But yeah, no, that was very interesting. So let's do the quick fire round, and then by all means, also give me recommendations on people to raid. A dagger to the heart, yeah. But let's start with Capt. What do I need to hear? We have reward yourself. You've been giving a lot of yourself lately, and it's time for you to receive. Make the time to reward yourself in a meaningful way. This balance of giving and receiving is essential to keeping your energy, mood, and motivation at a constantly high level. Are we just too tired? Does no one have any questions? Thank you, Capt. I know this was slightly different. I'm sure there may be people in the background that are just lurking. Oh my god, what happened to guidance? They've got 100 people watching right now. Oh, very nice. We might raid Granny Savage. For Warrior Princess, we'll do a general. Everyone is deep in thought, yeah. Warrior Princess, we have Heart Chakra. Love is the heart of the matter. Your heart is the center within your physical being, attuned most to love. It's safe for you to love and be loved with an open heart as we stand by with perfect protection and guidance. Let's raid Granny Savage. I'm only doing it because I don't usually raid Granny Savage because we end at the same time, and because I'm half an hour early, I'm there going, this works perfectly. Love you too. Thank you. I'd laugh if she ends early today as well. I'm doing well. Oh, those on YouTube, by all means, I don't know if you're watching live. That's the problem on YouTube. If you wanted an angel card reading, write the word angel followed by your question. And I can give you a card. But let's raid. Why is the raid button not working? Oh, there we go. Right. From me and Rogan, stay kind, stay cute, stay curious, my friends. And I'll see you all very soon. For those on YouTube, I am just going to make sure I'm in the chat for Twitch, and then I'll just answer your questions as well, and we'll end the stream. Right, Maria, does G have any romantic feelings for me? We have assertiveness, and so if you want to feel their love, you need to make sure that your presence is known. This situation can be healed gently and with love, as you've requested. Yet there's also a need for your strength and trustfulness with the other people involved. We will stand right behind you as you speak your truth, giving you strength and guiding your words. And with that, we'll end the stream. Thank you, everyone, once again. and I will see you all very soon.